Welcome back. On today's Dungeon Design Drive-By, we'll be taking a look at Act 2 of the one-shot I like to call Kill the King. I'm Mark William, and you're watching Drive-By D&D. After dealing with the three knights, you enter the forest, continuing your path towards Point B. A small path retreats from the main road leading to a dark cave. Just ahead, however, the rush of running water fills your ears. A shaky-looking bridge spans the river's width. And growing on the riverbank, for what looks like hundreds of years, a large white tree with many branches. Hanging from the branches are two small bodies in sacks, swinging from their ropes in the wind. Okay. That was the setup for Act 2, Scene 1. Now, it's important to remember that the setup is being used to just simply paint the picture and what the players find when they move on in this one-shot. And again, just like in Video 1 and Act 1, I always break up every encounter into the setup, the twist, and the lead. So, depending on what your characters did in Act 1, if you recall, they should have hopefully received the message from the nameless woman that they need to kill the king. They should have found the golden locket with their children, and they should have confronted the knights in some way. Maybe fought them, maybe ambushed them, and maybe just proved that they were innocent. So I actually did play test this with the group, and the group managed to basically prove to the knights that they weren't suspicious. And the problem that I had with this was that they decided to just stay at the camp and wait for the king's carriage to come right to them. So this was a little bit of a setback from a DM's perspective, and I could have used the knights better to explain to the group that the king's carriage will be coming in like an hour or so, and if they recall, they should be moving from one point to another point. So I could have done a better job with the knights to relay that to the group. So I did stop the group and explain to them that, yeah, the king's carriage is coming in a while. So they did move on from there. But just make sure that you do kind of press them on this journey through this foreign land. Okay, so however your characters get to basically Act 2, what they're going to find in this setup is just basically some terrain features. And hopefully it will subconsciously clue the characters in that this is an exploration encounter. So they have the cave to explore, the river, the bridge, and the tree. Obviously, from what they've learned from Act 1, the characters should be convinced to investigate the tree and the hanging bodies. So that will lead us to the twist. As you approach the hanged tree, you see what could only be the bodies of children. The two sets of tiny feet protrude from the hemp sacks, tell you that much. Nailed to the tree is a wooden sign. It reads, "Thievery punishable by hanging, the king's decree." Okay, so that was the twist. Again, hopefully based off Act 1, your players realize that they'll be attracted to the hanging tree and investigate that first. So when they get there, most likely they might cut the bodies down, and they should be able to easily identify that the kids match the kids in the locket. Or you can have them make a check, and if they roll really terrible, it could be their bodies have decomposed to non-recognition. But in some way, the children were related to the nameless woman. One last thing, I would also maybe just mention as they investigate the tree that there is a rope that's been cut and, implying basically that the nameless woman was here, she did escape, and she did somehow run through the woods and find you. So that's about all you want them to know from the beginning. So basically, once they kind of investigate this, contemplate again, is this king a bad person? Do these people deserve it? And that's why the sign is really important, the wooden sign saying that the king is the one behind this. Okay, I chose thievery as the crime to really make him seem like an asshole, basically. So it's up to you, if you change the crime to treason, well, maybe the players might think differently. But for my purposes, I wanted the king to seem a bit evil, and when I did playtest this, again, I made the mistake of not saying that, like not putting the sign on the tree. And so again, from a DMing perspective, I kind of made a mistake. And after the game, I spoke with the players and they said, well, I just thought it could have been bandits who hung the kids and nothing to do with the king. And it's like, again, I learned a lesson as a DM there. So I would be clear about the sign, choose the crime that you think would be good for them, and after they've kind of had this time, you're gonna bring them to the lead, which is actually the surroundings around them that we briefly mentioned in the setup. So let's take a look at that. After discovering the terrible state of the children, you observe your surroundings in more detail. A dark cave off the path, a stone bridge, broken in many places, and the old hang tree leaning precariously over the river. Okay, so that was the lead. Now remember that the lead is to draw the players back. So if they were hemming and hawing a little bit too much, if they were struggling with what to do next after they've kind of dealt with the two children and have come to terms with how they're feeling about the king, that's when you want to remind them about the environment. And that's why the environment is the lead. So in some way, I know that the way I just did it was very, it was more tell than show, but that's just a guideline. Do as best as you can to attract their attention to the dark cave, the river, the tree that's actually old, decrepit, leaning over, possibly used as a barrier, and the bridge is like breaking apart. You know, it's the carriage width. Make sure the players know it's about the carriage width. It's the carriage's width. That's how wide the bridge is. And to hint to the players that there are some ways that they could disrupt the carriage. Again, this mission is for low-level characters who feel like they can't just like kill the king, who again is like coming down this road right now, but they might be able to use the environment to their advantage. So for example, what's in the cave, right? What's in the cave? Well, the cave is my little black box, and it really is whatever I want to be in the cave. So this is a little trick I use with my terrain. So depending on how the players are doing, you could put treasure in this cave, you could put just an encounter in this cave if you want. Maybe there's just a creature in the cave. But for my campaign, my ideal version is I have a black adult dragon in this cave. I call him Cutthroat, or the people around this area call him Cutthroat. And basically, he's just like a killing machine. So if the players do end up wandering through the cave, they're going to encounter Cutthroat, who's going to play with his food. And basically, if they can prove to him, if they can maybe charisma their way out of it, he might end up helping the convoy, or helping the players, disrupt and kill the king. If they fail to impress the dragon, then he'll just kill them and that's the end of it. But this is a one-shot. I'm not holding any punches. So put something cool in the cave. Whatever you want. It's your magic little box. So basically, once they've kind of checked everything out and maybe devised a plan, this is really the end of Act 2. The minute they cross the bridge, you're going to spring on them Act 3, which we'll talk about next time. Okay, everyone, that was Act 2, The Hang Tree. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave any thoughts or comments below. And next time I see you, we'll be going over the final act of this one-shot that I like to call Kill the King. Thanks for watching, and remember, all D&D, all day long, all night till dawn.